Suffer, but it goes to the final day. You've come to Old Trafford in the run-in and you've won. Is that something that just cannot be underestimated?
Absolutely not. We know the difficulty of it, and that's why we have only won twice in 20 years here. And yeah, I think we started the game really well. Scored the goal, and the goal affected us, I think, in a negative way, especially with the things that we had to do on the ball.
Did you get into sort of protection mode a little bit?
I think so, and play to save and play backwards and play in areas that it wasn't progressing our play and creating the threat that we wanted, and we started to give a lot of balls away because of that, and then the game becomes open. But it's true that in the same hand we defended so well. Again, I don't think we conceded much at all, and that's what it got us the results.
Yes, 11 away clean sheets in the Premier League. I mean, those two centre-halves, I know it's a team thing, but Saliba and Gabriel together, that is a partnership that I suppose that gives you a chance in any game, even if you're not at your best.
Yes, but I think it's the attitude of the whole team. You look at Kai, the way he's chasing people, the way he puts pressure on the ball all the time, the discipline in a lot of habits that defending are super important. I think David as well was very, very good today again. So it's a collective thing.
I'm thinking back to some Arsene Wenger running advice, which you told your press conference about. It was a week or two ago, and basically it was, it doesn't matter how you win, just win in the running. Did you take that advice today?
Yes, but of course we are really happy to win. You want to play better, especially with the things that we did in the ball in the second half, because there was so much space as well to help them. But that's another step that the team has to take when it comes to these stages, to be even more dominant. But the difficulty today was a high stake. We did the same with the Spurs, so big credit to the boys.
How different is it, and how much more difficult maybe is it when the stakes are so high, when you're this close to the end?
Yeah, it is. You don't have margins for error. You play big teams with necessity, teams that they really want to put things difficult against you, and you have the necessity to win, and that has to be managed emotionally.
It goes to the final day, definitely. You might be first, you might be second going into that final day, but just that achievement that you've stayed the course, what does that mean to you?
Today we wanted to open that door to say, last game in front of our people, our families will be there, and let's live one of the most beautiful days that we have lived together and see what happens.
Yeah, and I remember you saying the other week, I think it might have been before Brighton City, that you're just going to sit and watch their game in your pyjamas. Have you got any Spurs pyjamas?
We will certainly be watching the games. I watch all the games. It's true, we need that result in order to achieve it, and on top of that we have to do our job. So everything is at stake still. Could they still be fallible? I mean, it doesn't look like it, does it? But could they? You know them better than anyone. It's football. There's always possibilities.
Thanks, Mikel.
Thank you.
Certainly is. As I said to you earlier, 27 Premier League wins, more than any other Arsenal team in the Premier League era, more than the Invincibles, and it still might not be enough to win the league. But do you think Tuesday, ironically, Tottenham is the most likely, when you look at West Ham at the Etihad for Manchester City? Is it all on Tuesday now?
I just look at a Man City side that are just, they've not lost this year. Was it 33 wins? You know, I still can't understand how Rodri's not in the Player of the Year, but the fact is that we're trying to ask a team like Tottenham, who have been so up and down, so open, to stop a Manchester City. You know, I can't get carried away with hoping that something happens.
They haven't got a single Premier League point or goal in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Well, this is when we find out. You know, you can hang your hope on that, obviously, but like this is where we find out, because City are in a frame of mind where they know this is it. They can't lose this game if it comes down. City knows that they can't do anything other than try and get a draw out of this game. They can't even get a draw out of this game. They've got to win the game.
Got to win the game.
But they've never played Tottenham in the title race. They've never played at this time at the Tottenham Stadium.
No.
And I think that plays into this is where they are the best. They build up, like Sir Alex used to say, it starts at Easter. They've built up to that, they're thereabouts, and then they're just relentless. They've done it for years, you know. When the Liverpool race last season, you know. Was it 94 points?
Season before.
Season before.
I mean,
yeah, 94.
It's
93.
Yeah, 14 consecutive wins. It's just what they do.
So tough.
I don't think
but the thing is,
can win that game.
You have to. If Tottenham win that game, then it will be something that nobody will be expecting. And of course, we're all hoping that can happen, because you know I think Arsenal have done brilliantly to get to this stage of the season. Coming off of last season, they've learnt a lot from it. And you can see how well the players are playing. But again, we're chasing down a team that's going to probably, if they do it, they will be the best team. You have to say they're the best team in the Premier League era because they've done it 4 times. Not even the great Man United sides, they've done it 3. But this is a team what they're trying to chase, and it's tough, the bar is high, but they've done magnificent, and they've just got to keep going.
And as I said, there's so many subplots here. We're going to watch Villa-Liverpool tomorrow here. If Villa lose that, then that makes that game more difficult for City because then Spurs think, wow, we can win against Sheffield United and finish 4th.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of this season, isn't it? We always wanted it as a neutral to go down to the wire. Relegation is looking like it's sorted, but European football is not. And, of course, the big one, the title, is not either. So we're still hoping it goes down to the last day. And whoever wins will be absolute deserving of the title because 2 teams are absolutely incredible, not much between them at all. But Manchester City, I agree with the lads, I've said it all season, they've just got gears, and as soon as they start needing to win in the last 2 months of the season, we've seen it before. It's they're a hard team to
So you just think 2 wins for City?
I'm starting to believe that both teams will just win all their games now. They're in the zone. They're in the title-winning zone, and I don't think there's going to be a slip-up.
But all Arsenal can do, again, they've got 1 game to go. Whatever happens on Tuesday, it's just win the game and just see what happens.
Yeah, well, that's what they had to go. Like, today was could have been a really tricky one for them, and I think that there was a little bit of nervousness. You heard Mikel Arteta say that we didn't progress the ball and do what he wanted to do, because that's just nerves. But, like, you have to feel that at home against Everton, knowing the last game of the season, depending on what City do, they're just going to do what they've been doing and winning games and getting it done. Because that's what they've got to do now, because that's what City will do. They'll just get it done. They'll try and get it done.
Yeah. Well, it's all on Tuesday.
And there's nothing worse, absolutely nothing worse, with not getting it done, and then we done it, you would have won it. And I've experienced that once.
So was Michael. Don't remind him.
Oh, my God, it's the worst feeling ever. we did beat West Ham.
Yes, I remember.
Oh my God,
the 2-2.
And it was 0-0, wasn't it?
Was that a 0-0?
2-2.
2-2. It was 2-2, mate.
And we won't even mention. We won't even mention.
It is, but no chance of a Mikel Arteta Spurs team talk at this stage to G them up. Let's remind you of the situation we find ourselves in going into this final week with Manchester City having played 1 game fewer than Arsenal. Of course, if the points were the same, the first thing we then look at is goal difference, and Arsenal still edge it by 3. But Manchester City edge goals scored. If it was then the same, it would go to the head-to-head, and Arsenal have a better head-to-head against Manchester City this season. But if City were to draw against Spurs on Tuesday night, it gets really interesting around the goal difference, doesn't it? Going into that final day. And then it becomes, we count the scores as they go in.
Well, that's what everybody will be hoping, I mean, it does. I said after the Aston Villa game when Arsenal got beat at home at the Emirates, I said it was all over then. It hasn't changed my mind. Man City just do what they do. I mean, it's disheartening at the moment. I mean, and they're doing it under pressure. You've got to realise it's under pressure week in, week out. Go to Palace, need to win a game. They go 1-0 down in 2 minutes, just pop it around, win 4. Palace have been beating everybody since then. They just keep on doing and doing. I just don't think we give them enough respect, Man City. They're just a phenomenal football team. And, Arsenal are probably going to finish second. And if you're relying on Tottenham to win a football match or draw a football match, no.
Don't go upsetting them at this point. I thought you were trying to play the mind games, trying to lull City into
I'm sure they'll,
sense of security.
I'm sure every Tottenham fan going, Paul Mercer says, get behind, I have a tattoo. If they win now, I'll have a Tottenham tattoo.
Right, there you go, that's on record. There's any incentive that you need, it is.
I will.
Where are you putting it?
Oh, well, you can't see it.
Let's remind you who they're both playing on this final weekend, and of course we have to stress that City have the job to do before then. But Arsenal play at home to Everton, and Manchester City are at home to West Ham, and only the bottom 3, the relegated 3, have conceded more goals than West Ham United. Would you expect whatever happens both to win on the final day, Wayne?
You'd say so, but what I will say, Everton have been in good form as well, and I know Sean Dyche wouldn't want Everton to lose end the season with a loss. So we're talking about the City game on Tuesday, which is obviously a massive game, but you've both got to win on the last day of the season. So there's still obviously a little bit to go in the season, and I think City will win it. I think City will win the 2 games, but I'm not convinced Tottenham will just let them win it.
But Manchester City, we have to remember, because we've been there on these big occasions, Roy, when Man City played Villa a couple of years ago, and we all remember the scenario at half-time. It was going to Liverpool, the title, and then going a little bit further back, Wayne will remember the QPR game and the Aguero moment.
Yeah, but ultimately they got the jobs done there, and when you look at their squad of players, the quality they've got, and Pep, and I just think it's very difficult. I questioned them maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago. I wasn't sure, but over the last few weeks, I don't know why I even doubted them. I'd done that about 3 or 4 years ago. I said never again. They just, again, we go back to it, a machine. Even yesterday, you know, not easy game sometimes, scoring 4 goals. The quality they have, players off the bench, world-class players, obviously an amazing manager. Yes, you just can't see them being stopped now.
Let's remind you then of the scenario that Spurs and Aston Villa are facing, because Paul's talked about the need for Spurs to be motivated. That gap is 4 points. Spurs can still get to 69. Clearly, Villa need to get 2 points. Their goal difference is 8 superior, so you would think 69 is going to be enough for them. So realistically, if they don't win, Spurs are still in the race. If they don't win against Liverpool tomorrow,
really need to get beat. If Villa got beat tomorrow by 2 or 3, all of a sudden that goal difference changes a bit. Then they go and get beat by 1 or 2 at Palace.
We've seen Villa struggling in recent
years. And then they go and get... So if they lost their next 2 games by 2 clear goals, which is not... You know, I'm not talking out of extraordinary here. That's 4 goals. And then all of a sudden Tottenham could put anything, you know, get a draw against Man City, and then I'm having a tattoo, and then they go and put 6 past Sheffield United that you wouldn't put anything past. It all goes down to tomorrow, but I'm starting to want Arsenal to win it now.
He's having second thoughts about the tattoo. I think we could have a competition for our subscribers as to come up with a tattoo that you can.
I mean that little cockerel on the ball. I will have it. I'll tell you, I will have it.
Stranger things have happened. Who knows?
Do you know what I think we're talking about? Will Tottenham have a go or not? It's Man City. This Man City team. Tottenham might play the best game they've played in years and get nowhere near them. So it's the task they've got is so difficult against
They have
City.
a decent record, don't they? They have a decent record.
Really good. I think Manchester City have scored at Spurs.
I think they beat them in the cup this season, didn't they? I think they went there and beat them in the cup, but in the league they haven't beat them. They hadn't even scored a goal in the league against.
But we look at the pressure. We look at City. Now the pressure's back on City, but what makes them a really brilliant team is they just deal with that pressure. They seem to enjoy it. This idea of the last few years ago must-win games for them, and they seem to enjoy that pressure and turn up and produce their best.
They got it through, and they got it through courtesy of Trossard. We've mentioned his 17 goals. Yeah. He said they only had 1 effort. He's been a bit kind. They had 5 efforts on target, but clear sightings of goals.
I think this is what he might have been saying, a clear sight, and I think this is where Arsenal were ruthless. And we heard Kai Havertz in these interviews saying that he had a look across and saw Casemiro not coming out, and that is the level that we're dealing with. You can't make a mistake of this magnitude in a game that means so much to the opposition, like Casemiro's doing here. He's not getting out quick enough. Like you noticed there, Pete. He's got to get out there quicker. Kai Havertz has seen it. Ben White's executed very, very well. But I think the Trossard's run, Wan-Bissaka, I'm very surprised he's let him get across him like that. But the run is very good. Maybe that's where Casemiro should have went. But he's got in there with pace and then sorted his feet out, because the ball's come across really quickly. Mix, you know what I mean, Mike? When you look at him, he's really sorted his feet out quickly. Look, really simply just to put the pressure on United.
Yeah, I mean, I love that type of finish, because as a centre forward, you're having to. It's all about timing, isn't it, Wrighty? You're having to guess when, or educated guess when the ball's going to leave his foot. You've then got to time it, thinking, right, the ball's going to go there to there. If I go early, I'm going to be too far past the near post. Or I'm going to have to slow my run and the defender gets it. So you've got to be absolute lightning fast, as quick as you can, but time it perfectly. So you've got, you know, and that's all it is, isn't it?
It's brilliant, Trossard there.
Yeah, it's great. The finish is the easy bit,
exactly, the finish is easy. He's made it easy, but, like, when Michael explains the amount of thought that's gone into that's got to go from Kai Havertz. His pass has got to have the right amount of pace to get through past the players, get past the keeper, and then the run. I think the run and the timing of Trossard's run, when you look at Wan-Bissaka, who's a very good one-on-one defender, It's just brilliant. And it's one of those, again, it's one of those goals that we take for granted. Oh, he's just a tap-in. But there's a lot of work that's gone in to make that look as easy as it was.
Earlier on, you touched upon...
Can I just...
go on, yeah.
From a defending point of view, obviously there are a few mistakes in there. So what you have here, you got Casemiro. We talked about this before the game. Casemiro is not a centre-half. I think he proved that on Monday night. So when we don't see Onana, right? So we don't see Onana should be pushing up behind him and actually say, go further forward, go further forward. He doesn't do that. He actually stays on the line. You know, so when we talk about being, they don't look like a team.
They attack like that as well. They attack like individuals,
they do.
Don't they?
Absolutely, yeah. And today is a great example of it's all about just when you get the ball, I'm going to try and score a goal. And I'm not going to look at any teammates. I'm just going to try myself. And this is for me as when we talk about standards and you know, these are your options. This is what you can do, or that is what you can do, or we pass it out to there. When we're here, this is what we're going to do. And I think someone like Garnacho today is a great example of how that doesn't work. I mean, we see the goal here again. Look at how spread out United players are. They're not reacting to it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it takes two to tango, doesn't it, I suppose, but us as centre-forwards, us as attacking players, you prey on a weakness, you try to force errors. If nobody made any errors, every game would be 0-0. So, of course, we're constantly thinking, right, he's dropped, he's not squeezed up too quickly, right, now Havertz is... And then there's a chain reaction of problems in behind it. So that's what we're preying on. Of course, Peter will see it in a certain way as well, but, you know, there will always be little mistakes, and it's how you punish them, how you capitalise on them, and how you put that pressure on.
But would you always then do the same thing? Or would you try to put a variation into what you do?
It depends what the mistake is. I mean, in that situation...
Yeah, but you would look at it, wouldn't you? When you get the ball,
you react
if you're running if you had the ball, you're running towards defenders, would you always do the same thing?
Not at all.
No, but
and every scenario is very different.
As a fan, I'm sat there, I'm watching... I mentioned Garnacho before. I'm watching Garnacho, who today had the ball so many times on the left. And I'm hoping for him, just now and again, to do something different. But every time, he's trying to finish it himself.
Garnacho gives me the impression that he doesn't play off of it. He hasn't got that person in there to play off, Mike, so he can go. We have Emil. You know what I mean? Some of the times if I came off and Dennis would be there, or Kevin Campbell, Alan Smith, he's somebody that when he gets it, he seems very, very one-dimensional in the way that he's only going for goal. You don't see too many 1-2s off of him. You don't see him looking to square it inside for his partner and the partner giving him the same thing. And this is where, for his age, and we know that he's capable of scoring great goals, is where the inexperience comes, because the decisions he makes in the final third, at the moment, especially in this game, they weren't good enough.
He needs to be coached a little bit, you know?
That's all it is.
So these are your options. When you get into different situations, you know, you cannot do the same thing every time. Everybody knows what he's going to do now. He's going to go left and try. Okay, he's trying to cross the ball. It's not a great cross, you know, but he kind of, it seems like, you know, he's doing a similar thing every time. Now he's going again, trying to. He's got pace, yes, but he's got players up there. There are options, other options. And if you look at how easy it is for Arsenal's defenders, I mean, this is the one time where he actually is doing it right, but then the finish had...
7 shots today, none on target.
Exactly. You know, and again, you know, he's going towards goal. It's so easy to defend again. He's not challenging. He's not changing his angle. And I'm not criticising him as such for it, because he's a young man. He's full of energy. He wants to do, you know, what he's experienced as successful before. But he's up against possibly the best defenders in the league. They will suss him out like that quickly, and therefore you need to put some variation into what it is that you're doing.
As well as coaching, Peter,
That's coaching.
Yeah, it's coaching, but it's also if, for instance, he'd been in your 90-90, imagine all the people on the pitch, on the training pitch, who would pull him to one side, like years later they did with Cristiano Ronaldo, for instance, when he was going to ground too easily. But this squad doesn't have that type of character to help a young player like Garnacho or Mainu, does it?
And when you don't have those characters in the team, then it's down to the coaching staff to help the player maximize his potential. I mean, Garnacho is a great, great player and prospect. He is. He can be one of the best players in the Premier League without a shadow of a doubt, and he's already done really, really good things. But in the last sort of month or two, it's felt a little bit like every time he gets a ball, he thinks he's got to finish it.
Is that because he's been asked too much? And we started, 30-odd games in a row, which, again, going back in Manchester United's history, a young player would never be asked to do, would they?
Possibly. I mean, it depends on his mental state, his mental capability. But, you know, you look at Manchester United's threat, it's hardly a threat. You look at the names on paper, we're still not sure about Højlund. You know, he could be brilliant. He could be, you know, a poor sign. We will see when he gets more. But Ahmed, you know, does a bit. But these are the type of players that probably should be coming off the bench, maybe, you know, to change something at the end. I mean, none of them at the moment strike me as Manchester United. That is a Manchester United player. I mean, you think we keep harping back to a few years ago, but they, you know, the Wayne Rooney's, the Berbatovs, like utter class. Wright, you mentioned before, Fernandes, obviously they miss him. He's one player that can do something different. But for a Manchester United team, yes, there's injuries, but even on paper before the game, you just think, is that it? There's no goals in that team.
OK, let's get some Manchester United reaction. Here is the defender, Johnny Evans.
I know you'll not want to stand here and be too upbeat, but in terms of maybe a bit of pride restored after Monday, was that a lot better today?
I thought we were more solid. We tested the opposition goal a bit more probably than the other night, but you know, still not disappointing to lose, and you know, with big expectation and on the young players in the squad. You know, Ahmad coming in and Garnacho. To provide that, Højlund as well up front. But, you know, like I say, I thought we were a lot more solid today.
What was the key to being more solid?
Yeah, we changed the shape a little bit and, you know, put two midfielders, you know, probably more defensive minded in there to sort of make us a bit more compact.
How tough is it? I mean, you've obviously got vast experience, and the manager's spoken a lot about the changes at the back, 14 different centre-back partnerships. How tough is that, Johnny, when the guy next to you is different, like, every single week?
Yeah, you know, it can maybe take a game or two. To sort of get used to each other's game, and yeah, I think every team to go through that would suffer. So, you know, I think if you look at the teams, you know, at the top of the league, especially, you know, they've not had many changes. Maybe lost one or two players, but they've been able to cope. I think the amount of injuries we've had, you know, like I say, especially a lot of our experienced players, Martinez, Varane, you know, has had long spells out. Casemiro had a long spell out. You know, even Harry, you know, missing the game today. So a lot of experience, and you know, we've been very reliant on the young players over the season. You know, give credit to them. I thought they were great today, the two wingers, and they've been great all season. The young lads, Cobby, coming in as well. So a lot of responsibility thrust onto them, and I think they've handled it really well.
Does it feel like a lot of responsibility for you when there's a lot of young players around, and also even though the guy next to you is vastly experienced, he doesn't play centre back?
No, there is. There's a lot of responsibility, and you try and take that on. And you know, myself, coming back in, I guess my second game in a couple of days, and I think, you know, I've missed a little spell out of the team myself. So, you know, you feel it whenever you're out of the team like that, and you feel like, you know, you want to be able to contribute. And I think there's probably a lot of lads in the squad that feel the same. Luke Shaw, Victor Lindelof as well. You know, it's a lot. You know, what teams had to cope with, and you know, I think the manager's tried to be positive over the season and deal with it and as best he can. And I think he's handled that very well.
Where are Manchester United at the moment, do you think? I mean, you know, as well as anyone, the scrutiny and the criticism is always big with this club. Like, to put it bluntly, how bad is it, or not?
Like Man United, you know, you want to be challenging, you want to be winning games. We expect, you know, we've still got that mindset where we should be winning today, and you know, no Arsenal at the minute are on a good run, and you're up at the top of the league. But you know, it's disappointing coming away from the game, and I think we should always have that expectations. I have to say, the fans have been, you know, since they've come back, I think they've been, you know, very supportive of the team and understanding that, like you mentioned before, the injuries and you know, where we are as a team at the moment. You know, hopefully can regroup in the summer. We've got new owners have come in, and you know, hopefully they've got different ideas. There's probably, you know, a lot of changes made behind the scenes at the top as well. So they'll come in, have their new ideas, and hopefully give the place a refresh.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Cheers,
pal.
Well, Johnny Evans, Peter, there uses the word refresh. They've lost for the 9th time in all competitions at Old Trafford today, and that is equalled a club record in their entire history.
Yeah,
I mean, refresh is something of an understatement, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that isn't great. And it's us 14 defeats in the Premier League, which is really, really bad.
A new Premier League record as well.
Yeah, that's really, really bad. Now, we know that there are new owners, new leadership at the club. It is something, it's a hope. You're clinging to that hope that they will come in and make some tough decisions.
Have they got big plans? We saw you when Michael and I were covering the game at Chelsea, sitting next to Sir Jim Ratcliffe. So we did promise, didn't we, that night, when Peter was next with us, we'd ask him, what's the inside track from Sir Jim?
The inside track? Well, first of all, Sir Jim, he's a proper football fan. I mean, he could be on the terraces and singing all those songs and actually saying whatever he feels like in whatever moment. And that was quite refreshing to have somebody who loves football like as much as that, and also loves Manchester United the way that he does. I mean, he's coming in at a time where everything is falling apart from decisions made over the last 10 years. That's how I see it. So there is an opportunity now to draw a line and say, from now on, we do this. There's already, I mean, we've seen from the media, it was always, something about an email and he's done this and people are complaining about that. But changes are going to hurt. They are going to hurt. Something's got to give. And that is my hope that this summer, that something big, a big statement is going to be made. That tells me as a Manchester United fan that we're now changing direction. We cannot continue in the same way. We cannot keep believing that we can buy players and buy our way out of it, because we tried. We have really, really tried. We are the football club in the world with the highest net spend in the last 10 years. We can't keep doing that. We've got to be clever. We've got to develop players as the club has always done for their most successful periods. We've got to be smart and scout really well, do the diligence on players, make sure that we get the right type of players in. When we look at the squad today, we've got one team, or the squads, we've got one team challenging for the championship, we've got one team not challenging for it. The one team, they've got every position covered on the bench, from the bench, and you will not really see the difference when they make the substitutions, other than a little bit more energy but the quality won't fall. But for Man United, you see all the young players who's never played in the team before. They are then being asked to come in and do that job. That's not what Manchester United is all about. It's not. And, what are the changes going to be? I don't know. People crying for a new manager, people crying for certain players to leave. We have to wait and see, but something's got to give, for sure.
And it's not going to be a quick fix, whatever happens, is it?
No, I would say not. I'd say not, but although, someone like Mikel Arteta came into Arsenal as opposite number today, and you'd say that that's happened reasonably quick, isn't it? Listen, it's not
in as bad a shape as Man United are now, though?
No. But
there was a lot of players that had to go, though. He had to do a lot of work behind the scenes.
And that's hard. That's harder sometimes than getting players in, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you'd also say that Manchester United would have the financial clout to accelerate the process better than Arsenal back at that time. But Mikel Arteta's done it, and done it really well. So, it can happen, but it's not gonna happen in a year or two, is it? They're not going to win the league again.
Well, one of the big problems is, of course, that players have been signed for very, very high transfer fees, which has to be appreciated over a certain number of years. So they've had to sign long contract, 5-year contract, at very, very high wages. And if the players that you've signed are not good enough, are they gonna leave? I mean, there are certain players at the end of their careers. Are they going to leave and then leave all that money behind? I don't think so. So they're still there, and they're still in consideration with FFP, which is something that United really have to be careful about now. So it's not as easy as we think to make those changes, especially getting players out, players we don't want there. So it's going to be really interesting to see what Sir Jim is doing, but hopefully he's going to do something.
He's made changes in the background, hasn't he?
Yeah.
the main one he's got to do is the main job at the club. Sir Alex Ferguson always used to say the most important person in the club is the manager, and they've got to have that right. But once you get the right manager, then I think you can start accelerating that process. But the chopping and changing, the uncertainty, the lack of results, the lack of a plan, the lack of everything that we see, the lack of progress, full stop. I mean, you've got to get the right manager.
After the game on Monday night, you were very, very clear about what you thought about the manager. You said he's got to go. This is unacceptable. Now it's been nearly a week now. Have you made any thoughts about what you think would be a good person to put in there instead?
I mean, we've all heard of the rumours that possibly could be. I mean, we're hearing that the likes of Gareth Southgate, Graham Potter, people like that. You've now got Thomas Tuchel that's available. There are names out there. There's no real standout that I would think you've just got to go and move quickly and go and get him. But I just think, you know, I know you've always got to have a plan after you make a decision like that, but this current manager fills me with no confidence whatsoever. And, you know, what are Manchester United going to do? Wait for the perfect candidate? You might be waiting a year, 2 years, 3 years. In the meantime, going to keep being served up this? I think you almost just got to make that decision. And then, you know, I'm sure they're searching as we speak.
You know, the thing is, Mike, is that I was reading some of the stuff that Sir Jim Ratcliffe was saying about trying to build structure and trying to build a structure where the club plays to a certain like Ajax, which is something that Ten Hag was used to, and then you just bring the coaches in. Now, if that's the way they're going to go, then you probably feel like he might feel like, well, Ten Hag can operate in that situation, so we'll have to see how that works out. But to build that kind of structure in a club like Man United from the bottom all the way to the top, so as then you can only bring in the coach, is going to be a long process. So it's going to be interesting to see how they actually do that. But something's going to have to give in the summer. We need to find out what's going to happen. And it's quite interesting times for Man United now.
Certainly is. OK, interesting summer ahead. Let's, though, get the immediate thoughts from today, the 1-0 defeat from Erik Ten Hag.
Well, Eric, we know that a Manchester United manager is never going to stand in front of us after a defeat and be happy. But can the players at least look the supporters in the eye today, knowing that they've given everything, the fight, the heart that you asked for beforehand, that was all there?
Yeah, I think your line is right. We can face them, where on Monday definitely we couldn't face them. But you see the fans are behind us, and they fought with us in Palace. And today we gave them back, but that should be the standard in any game.
So what was the key to a much improved performance?
It is attitude. It starts always with the right attitude, and that is what you have to build during the week. And on match day, you have to be spot on. And today we did. And then you see, even when we miss 7 start 11 plays, potential start 11 plays, we are competitive with one of the best teams in the league.
So you say attitude, but also a bit of an adaptation from you tactically today. Dalot looked very narrow. I don't know if the plan was to sort of restrict Arsenal, stop them coming through the middle.
Yeah, it is also always the plan. And it's about the execution. And when you don't have the right attitude, and when you don't find the moments to press, when you don't be on one page in togetherness, or when you get beat, when you don't make the recoveries, then you make it very simple for every opponent.
What did you make of the goal that decided the game? Should Casemiro, should he know to be out there, or is that just a case of it's a midfielder playing in a out of position?
I think that I think it's a line, and you describe it, that situation, that is a midfielder playing in that position, making a mistake, making a small mistakes, but has hard consequences.
How important is it that this is just, this is the base, if you like, and you move on from here with basically 3 cup finals left, not just 1?
No, but I think for a United player, every game is a final. And you have to perform and you have to win every game. And we should realise this.
You mentioned the supporters, I think, in your first answer, right behind the team again today, right behind you, it seems like, as well. What does that mean? Because, I mean, you're the manager of a massive club that hasn't had a great season, and it feels like the pressure and scrutiny on you is big, but to have those supporters still behind you, what does that mean?
That I think the fans understand this, where we are, where this club is. If we have so many injuries, and especially on key areas, they don't get what they deserve, the fans. But they understand this, and that's why I think they are behind the team, because they see most of the times also a team what's fighting for each other, but has the right spirit. And I think that's why they are with us. We are united. We have a strong bond, and hopefully we can pay them back in the future.
And do you think you've shown today that you're a manager that's still able to really influence this team tactically and in terms of their motivation?
I have no doubt about this, because, as I say, maybe in Palace, but I think there's also human beings, and in my experience, that will always happen once in 3 months, that you are not in the right attitude. But on Monday we had such a night, but mostly this team has always the right spirit, and they always execute the rules and the principles from the game, how we want them to play. And even if they have to adapt to different positions where we are now with all the injuries, so yeah, I can only be happy, and I think a big compliment for this team that the ones who played, they execute with all what they could, and they were competitive, and yeah, they were fighting, and then you see you can get a result.
Obviously the league table, the gap between yourselves and Arsenal looks massive, but with a fully fit squad, how big do you think that gap is between yourselves and the very best teams?
Oh, that is just hypothetical. We don't have to answer this question in this moment, because it isn't. We have the problems, and that the problems cost us, I think, the results, but I don't know where we should be when we had all the players on board, but definitely is. If there are players all on board, then you will gather more points. Definitely you will more consistency, especially in the back line, because now we concede a lot of chances, a lot of goals, and last year we had the most clean sheets in the Premier League.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All the best.
Well, Manchester United, the most points they've ever finished off the top of the league is 35. They're 32 at the moment. He thinks the supporters have been paid back somewhat today.
No, I don't think that. I think with him, with Ten Hag, it's one of his problems doing these post-match interviews, but I'm not sure he knows precisely what to say. He's trying to be honest, and he's someone who analyzes a lot. So he's spending the next couple of days looking at the game, preparing for the next. He hasn't had that time, so he will probably see a lot of what we've seen today when he looks back at this game. But I don't think he's excelled in his post-match interviews, because he came out one week saying that his team was the most dynamic and entertaining team in the Premier League. They've just beaten Sheffield United 4-2 in a game where they were 1-0 down and 2-1 down as well, and a little bit fortunate to get to 4-2. And I don't know why he's doing that. It could be a deliberate thing to divert from other things, but I don't think he's excelling in that. And sometimes I'm worried about what's going to happen going forward if he's the one driving the bus. I am. I have to be honest. You are as well.
I can't imagine any Manchester United fan sat there at home watching that is going to be, that's my man. Great motivation. I get that. It's, oh wow. If that type of interview, we don't know what the plan is on the pitch, and after that, how long was that interview? About 4 minutes. I'm even more confused than I was beforehand. I mean, was there any sense in that? Mentions injuries a lot. Okay, whose fault's that? Whose fault's the injuries?
I think that's
not yours. It's not yours. He's the manager. It's his club's problem. Why are you blaming everyone?
Everyone gets injuries. It's the last thing you can say, Mick, for me. Talking about injuries, I think that if you're going to... What they should be doing, they should delve down into their injury department and the medical department and find out why so many players are taking so long to come back. And when they do come back, they break down again. We've seen it recently again with Mason Mount. Not saying that Mason Mount's pulling trees up at the moment, but...
No, he played on Monday and he's injured again.
He's injured, and so those are the things, again, that is part of what they're going to have to look at. Because if you can get Man United's first team out, then you probably feel like they're going to cause teams more problems, without a shadow of a doubt. Looking after the injuries and getting people back is vitally important to what you're doing.
Yeah? Quickly, go on.
No, I'm just saying, having worked with someone like Sir Alex Ferguson always, he had these saying, like, the season starts in March, you've got to be thereabout. Yeah. But also, he never, ever wanted us to train very much. 45 minutes, maximum an hour. So not putting pressure on the players in training, not putting pressure, because it's difficult, it's hard to play all these games. So I just have a suspicion that there are other principles being brought in from other countries, other leagues, where this is how we've done it. And it sometimes doesn't work on the Premier League. Sometimes you gotta compromise on maybe some of your principles, that you gotta train the day after a game, you gotta train. But sometimes it's better for you to have 5 days off, and just 2 days training. And so Alex would do that, because mentally, you got to be ready for the games. It's not about the numbers on, everything is measured up. It's not about that, Owen. It's also about what you see and what you feel. And sometimes I just feel like that's not really in there anymore.
I remember that time he gave you a week off, you and Scholesy, do you remember? You went to Barbados, Scholesy went to the Lake District.
I left playing really, really badly. I came back playing really, really well. Yeah. Because now not playing, but playing what I was
Michael in Sandy Lane, and then there you were. Yeah, brilliant. How the other half live?
Hag remaining, well, remarkably upbeat, you'd say, right?
Yeah, he has to be, and he's an experienced manager. Certainly not easy getting interviewed after a game where it's another defeat, and the stats for this team are so bad in terms of the records, defeats, where they are on the table. Their struggles in Europe. Yeah, they've got a cup final coming up in a few weeks. So it's a tough interview, and he's trying to stay positive. And there are tough questions he's been asked about. The players behind him, and is he tactically up to it? And
do you think he is?
Tactically up to it. I'd like to think so, and I think there has been genuine problems at the club. The injuries, and he mentioned the back four, and I think he's pretty honest with that side of it. But the more games you're losing, and when you're 8 in the table, I suppose you end up losing that belief. But it doesn't mean to say you'd sit here. I'd never sit in the studio and think, I think a manager should lose his job or anything like that. I hope he's given more time, and they get to the summer, they can regroup and restructure the club or whatever that might be. But there's huge problems at the club. But I hope he's given that chance to get things right. Because last year there was some positives. Just, we have to be honest with that. And they have a cup final coming up, and if they manage to beat Man City, it's going to be very, very difficult. But there's huge challenges he's facing, and he's under huge pressure.
What's your take on it, Wayne? They are 32 points off the top now. They've lost 14 games, the most in any Premier League season. Should Erik Ten Hag be under scrutiny? Should his job be in question?
I think anyone who's Manchester United manager is under pressure, because obviously it's a huge club, and when you're losing games and in the way that they're losing games at the minute there's going to be big questions asked. And I said this a few weeks ago, I think the players have to really look at themselves, because when you've got your manager doing an interview and he's talking about attitude and players' attitude not being right to play for Manchester United, that is a massive insult. If I see my manager saying that, then there's no way I'd just let that ride till the end of the season. And it looks like some players are just trying to get to the end of the season, and that's my personal opinion. And so I feel for him in that way, but ultimately it's his job and to make sure the players are right.
So is it your feeling that perhaps some of these Manchester United players are not playing for this manager anymore?
Well, if they are, I don't think they're showing it very well. I think the performances, there's some very good players in that squad, and the performances are way below par. And as we look at the injuries they've picked up, and some of them players can play. Some of them players can play with
the injured players.
Yeah, 100%.
That's quite a big claim. That you're saying that some Manchester United players who we're not seeing out there now are fit enough to be in that, and that's their choice.
You've got European Championships coming up, you've got an FA final coming up. It's easy for players to, because they're getting a little bit of stick now, it's easy for players to stay out for a little bit and then come back towards the final and get themselves ready for the European Championships. And you've seen it, I've seen it myself over the years. So I just think the players who are being injured, they're not filling themselves with any credit at the minute. And the manager's going to take all the stick for that.
What if that was true, Roy?
Well, obviously that's not a good sign. No, you'd always hope players who are carrying injuries and are desperate to get back playing football. That's what you'd hope. There's always a worry. There's always a few players at every club, I think, that can drag their heels with an injury, and you might say to a player, you're out for 3 or 4 weeks, and that's the length of time will take. But other players, generally players I've played with, if someone gives them a length of time they're going to be injured, they will say, I'll try and knock a week or 2 off that, and I want to get back playing for Man United or wherever club they're at. So that's always a worry. But I have to say, I think that goes on at lots of football clubs. There's lots of players out there at certain stages of the season when they have an injury or they're lacking confidence and they're out of it, they're not in a hurry to get back in the team. I think that's obvious, and that happens at lots of football clubs.
What's your take on this from a sort of outside perspective? If Manchester United want the best chance of success moving forward, we know they're changing from the top all the way through, would you have Erik Ten Hag as your choice?
It reminds me of Men in Black, if I'm being honest. He starts talking, presses his button on his pen, and it finishes. And I'm sitting here now thinking, ain't that bad, is it? Weren't that bad? It was shocking. It was like, they've just had 145 touches in the final third, had 2 shots on target. The 2 shots on target, Casemiro had one from 45 yards, which I would have saved. So it's not good enough. You can't lose 9 games at home. This is Man United. I mean, you can have 10, 11 injuries. Luton have had 10, 11 injuries. Chelsea have got 10, 11 injuries. To big players as well, Chelsea, like Reece James, people like that, whose first choice is the captain of the club. And they're not playing, and Chelsea are still going to finish above them. Newcastle will come here this week and win. I don't care how many of them players get fit next season. There's no way they are finishing above Arsenal next season. Not a chance. And I'll have another tattoo as well. No chance. No chance. They won't. No chance. They're 30 points behind. But they'll have little phases, Roy, where they'll win 4 or 5 games on the trot. But they'll keep on coming back. They won't. Like, it worries me today. Martinez, I heard you say that he wanted to play and he's not playing. 15 staff out there today when we was doing our thing. They were warming up. 15 staff. There was just as many players as staff. Many staff as players. If I want to play, I want to play. The physio ain't telling me I'm not playing, or the geezer, because like he says, oh, don't play him, he's like, whatever. I want to play. I played over 700 football matches I played. If I played 100 games at 100%, I'd be shocked. I would be shocked if I went out there and I thought, buzzing today, everything's good. I was having injections, I was taking tablets, I wanted to play football. I wasn't going to listen to someone else tell me that I can't play. I want to play. And this is the problem. Everybody else tells everybody else to play. The young lad, not being horrible, he's had an injury. If I'm not playing today and I'm the centre half...
Talking about Willy Camboire.
Willy Camboire. If I'm today and I'm sub and I'm centre half and I'm playing behind Johnny Evans, Casemiro, what's the point in being here?
But you ask us, do we kind of have the belief in the manager? But we're not working with him. The biggest worry is in the dressing room. The training ground, what it's like before the game. Are they looking at their manager, the players, even experienced players, and looking at the manager and going, we feel you can get us over the line and drag us over the line?
Do you think they are?
Well, the evidence is not there. With the stats and the table and the amount of losses and the type of performances, and when they do go under, not necessarily today, but they've gone under in games and they've given up 2, 3, 4 goals very, very quickly. So you're looking, they're lacking that belief and that's sometimes that mentality to play for Man United. So if the players are not looking at the manager going, oh, listen, we're 100% behind you. You'd always get 1 or 2, of course, who would have their doubts because they might be out of the team or trying to get her. But if you've got 8, 9, 10 players who are doubting the manager, then you're in huge trouble.
Do you think winning the FA Cup saves Erik Ten Hag?
And I personally hope they do give him time, because I think there's a lot of problems at the club. Recruitment, is massive, and it hasn't been good enough throughout the years. So I do think he gets time to do it right. And but we've seen before. We've seen I was part of the FA Cup final when we won it in 2016, and Louis van Gaal lost the job. So never know.
Well, let me ask you this then, Wayne. Manchester United, if they finish 8th, will miss out on Europe unless they win the FA Cup, and that would be the second time in 30 years that's happened. But actually, is there an argument that might be a positive moving forward?
No, for Manchester United, you want to be playing in all the competitions, the best competitions, and obviously they can't make the Champions League, but to play in Europe is is massive. You want to.
We're not talking about Champions League, though, are we? We're talking about potentially the Conference League.
Yeah, but it's still my last ever game for Manchester United. We won the Europa League, and that's still something I have a lot of pride in doing. So you can only win the competitions you're in, and of course, for United fans, for players, for staff, they want to be in the Champions League. They're nowhere near that at the minute.
But then again, they were in that this year, weren't they?
Yeah.
They were terrible. Last year we were praising them, going, well, they've managed to get into the Champions League. But it's no good for a club as big as Man United being in the Champions League if you've got absolutely no chance of winning. I know there's a financial side to it, that the club need to be involved in it. But I can't sit there and go, it's a positive to finish 8th and be out of Europe. How can you... What kind of message does that send to your players, to your supporters, that, oh, we'll regroup? It's a setback, and great clubs go through difficult spells, and United are having a difficult spell, no doubt about it. But I don't see any positives in finishing 8th. And then on top of all that, you look at the points totals, but then the goals to be -3 or 4.
Yeah.
Man United is just...
I didn't think in my lifetime I'd see this. I didn't think I'd see it.
Well, there never has been a negative goal difference for Manchester United.
Yeah, but even 8th, I mean 8th in the league. This is like this is still like sitting here today. This is the big, in my opinion, the biggest club in the world. You know, still one of the biggest clubs in the world. It's not the biggest team in the world. I mean, if they beat Man City in the FA Cup final, looking at it at the moment, looking at the last few results, looking at Palace, he should get knighted. He should get knighted. I'm not exaggerating. He should get knighted because it would be a miracle. It would be a miracle if they beat Man United. I know Wigan have beat them and teams like that, but Man United will go after them. And at the moment, the way they're playing, they could do what they did to Watford.
Even they're lined up today, you're looking at the lineups and you look at the Man United team and you're looking going, like, every team must look forward to playing United. It doesn't mean they're going to beat them. They still have to turn up, and still it can be achievement beating Man United. But the better teams must look at this United team at the moment, without the players, you know, the important players who might be injured, and looking going, listen, there's no presence about them. There's no fear involved in this United team. They're a really bang average team now. And again, we always go back to it. The table doesn't lie.
How many Man United players would get in the Arsenal team today before kick-off? Not one. Not one.